My name is Joey Lee, and I get to serve here. Oh, this happened last time, didn't it? I'm just not going to fiddle with it. I swear I don't do this on purpose to get a laugh. Okay. The second one. Okay. As I was saying, I get to serve here as the director of spiritual formation, and we are in our second week of the Beatitudes series. #blessed. Do any of you ever use that in your social media? Okay, good. Just kidding. Pastor Marco preached on blessed are the poor in spirit, and blessed are those who mourn. He did 2 in 1 so that I could do just the one today. Blessed are the meek. I kind of want to start out with something kind of inflammatory, something controversial. I saw this tweet the other day. It says here, somebody asks, what's the harshest truth you've ever learned? And then the person responds by saying, there are no benefits to being a good person. Whoa. Shots fired. That's a hot take, right? I'm curious. I'm going to give you all 30 seconds to turn to your neighbor and get into a debate. Do you agree or do you disagree that there are no benefits to being a good person? Ready? Set, go. Oh, the debate. There's no benefits. All right, 10 more seconds, y'all. Nice. Okay, good. I like it. I like the buzz, the arguments and the debates. Give me a thumbs up if there's benefits to being a good person. And then how about those who think there's no benefits? Okay. Some realists out there. Okay, good. I'm going to suggest that this person is actually a little right. This person is right because the benefits of being a good person aren't going to be very immediate, in my opinion. And when they do come, they won't be very obvious. So they're kind of right. So let me keep it real with you. This series, #blessed, it's been a little difficult for me because I don't feel blessed. Can any of you relate to that? I mean, God might say you're blessed, but I don't feel like I'm blessed, right? When I compare myself with others, they're taller. They're like, they don't have facial blemishes, right? They're more talented, they're more advanced in their careers, or I don't know, they're doing better than me. I don't feel blessed. And it's been difficult. This series has been hard. Sometimes when we compare ourselves, right, we think, oh, they have the blessing. They're taller. They're richer. They're doing better. Their kids are more successful than my kids or whatever, Looks like. I know. Yeah, it's true. Do you ever think this to yourself? God, I've done good. I've tried to be a good person. I've tried to do the right thing. And look where it's got me. Nowhere. As I've studied this Beatitudes sermon series, I've slowly but painfully come to this realization. 1, that I am unhappy because I haven't had success at the things I thought would bring me happiness. And 2, it is possible to succeed at the highest aspirations of my life and still fail at being a human being. So what do you do? What do you do when you're not only missing the target, but you realize your target lies elsewhere? If happiness is to be found, it might be found somewhere very unexpected. Somewhere you don't think it's going to be. In fact, I think this is what, if you call yourself a Christian, this is what Jesus does. Jesus' way of life is paradoxical. Last is first, giving is receiving, dying is living, losing is finding, least is greatest, poor is rich, weakness is strength, and serving is ruling. Backwards, upside down, don't make any earthly sense. Right? So looking at this list, the woman who tweeted, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It's supposed to be anonymous. The person who tweeted the tweet, that makes sense. There are no benefits to being a good person. If it gets you that, losing and being least. There's no benefits of being weak and poor, no benefits to being a servant or a slave, right? That's how the world works. How does the world work? Look at all the government officials, the politicians who run our government, the warmongers who push for war, the wealthy CEOs who run our economies, the influencers who are filling up our social media feeds. They're trying to get big, more, fast, stronger. You know, they're the strong, the self-sufficient, the overbearing, they're capable, they're aggressive, ambitious, right? That's how the world works. That's what success looks like. That's what happiness looks like, supposedly. And I get unhappy that I'm not there. But the Beatitudes series is kind of reminding me, you're blessed that you don't have that stuff. Maybe I dodged a bullet. Maybe. So over and against this reality, Jesus teaches a different reality. Let me read the first half of these verses, and I'd like to invite you to read the second half. Oh, that was supposed to illustrate government, economy, and social media. Yeah. Yeah, see, it would have been way more powerful if I had that, huh? Oh well. All right, let me read the blue. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn. Blessed are the meek. Thank you, friends. Wild, right? This is what Jesus teaches. It's ridiculous. In fact, I would say it's absurd. Just like the rest of Jesus' teachings, the Beatitudes are paradoxes. They turn our usual standards upside down. They're uncomfortable, countercultural, shocking. But Jesus' perspective is a powerful act of creativity, creating something new. It's a reimagination of what it means to be human. So as I see it, a good person isn't just somebody who does morally good things, like walking old ladies across the street. That is a very good thing you should do. Keep doing it. A good person is good at being a person. Are you good at being a person? Are you good at being a human being? That's the point of the Beatitudes. Not only are you happy, not only are you blessed, but are you good at being what God made you to be? So, if you're currently poor in spirit, currently mourning, currently hungry and thirsting for righteousness/justice, if you're currently merciful, pure in heart, if you make peace with others, and if you're persecuted for being righteous, and if you're being persecuted for Jesus' sake, then the Beatitudes are a message of hope. It's a good news. And at the same time, if you lord over others, if you're self-righteous, if you're full of yourself, then the Beatitudes are a warning. You're not going to hear it as good news. It's not even going to make sense to you. The Beatitudes will make no sense to the person who's full of themselves. But let me tell you this. The Beatitudes are not a way to earn your way to heaven. All right? Let's put it out there. This is not how you earn your way to heaven. These are Jesus' invitations into a way of life that ultimately leads to well-being. So he's inviting you to be poor in spirit, to mourn, to be meek. And in doing so, you might have well-being. Who wants that? Amen? All right, so blessed, right? This word that we use, blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek. It's this Greek word called makarios. You want to repeat after me? Makarios. New Testament, Greek. Here we go. We translate this as blessed, happy, fortunate, prosperous. In the ancient Greek world, pronouncing Makarios over people was pretty common. It's like saying congratulations for having something that the gods have. It's almost like you have this similarity with divinity, right? So they'd say, congratulations on having a lovely bride, congratulations on having excellent children, being righteous, having wealth, wisdom, honor. Like those are good things. Those are good things that would lead to what they would think is a happy life, right? So they would say Makarios over you. And that's for the secular, right? In the Jewish and Christian tradition, pronouncing Makarios also meant the same thing. They were saying, you are blessed from God's perspective. You are blessed even when you don't feel blessed. Isn't that crazy? I mean, Jesus is telling us, let's say one of you is poor in spirit, one of you is mourning, one of you is meek. Jesus is saying you're blessed, even if you don't feel blessed. I wonder if we can sit in that. You are blessed even if you don't feel happy. You are blessed even when you're not in great circumstances. This was really hard for me. The past few weeks, it was so hard for me to swallow this because like I said, I don't feel blessed. And yet Jesus is saying you are blessed. And I'm like, God, like, look around me, look at my external circumstances. And then Jesus is saying, that's not where happiness is to be found, in external circumstances. I think what matters most is that when I'm living out the conditions, living out the virtues of the Beatitudes, God considers me blessed, even if I don't feel like it. It's tough. All right, so I covered the Beatitudes, Makarios, as a category, right? Now let's dive deep into Matthew 5:5. Blessed are the meek. This don't make no sense to me. Right? The meek are, in fact, the last people to inherit the earth, aren't they? Right? They're the people that get passed over, stepped on, stepped over. Who are the meek? If you pulled out any of your dictionaries today, the dictionary would say that the meek are shy, timid, cowards, weak and spineless, submissive. That's what meek in our English word means. But that's not what it meant in the New Testament. And it's not what the word praus meant outside of the New Testament. So let me show you. Second Greek word of the day, praus. Repeat it after me. Praus. Praus. Sounds like a great word to know. So according to the Greek world, during Jesus' time and even before Jesus' time, the word praus did not mean weak. In fact, you would want an emperor, a ruler who was praus. They had power, but this was power under control. You would want a ruler that just didn't go to war for no reason. Somebody who had self-control, meek, gentle. You want judges who are meek and gentle. Not judges who just punish people for any small reason, right? You want somebody in control. Other Greek philosophers before Jesus' time used this word, praus, to refer to the calming of a wild horse, the taming of a wild horse, or the calming of an irritated person. Same thing, right? Anybody here know what that's like? the irritation that rises up with you, you just want to buck and kick, right? In fact, horse trainers from ancient times to today use this word gentle, to gentle a horse. Gentling a horse means to take this wild horse and to tame it so that you can approach it, so that you can put your hand on it, you can pet it, you can lead it in and out of the trailer, and that you can even ride it. That's what it means to gentle a horse. Does that mean that the gentle horse is weak? That all of a sudden it's like a Eeyore and he's like, it doesn't want to do anything? No, right? A gentle horse is a strong horse that's under control. So properly understood, meekness and gentleness is strength under control. Strength under control. There's a phrase amongst horse breeders: the meekest horse wins the race. What does that mean? The weak, shy, timid horse wins the race? No. The meekest horse means that this is the horse that is focused. All that power, all that speed is harnessed under the control of the rider. Can you imagine like a wild, crazy, frenzied horse? This anxious one who's like, I'm afraid of everything, and so he's not gonna run, right? But a meek horse, a horse that has been tamed and controlled, focused, can win. That's what it means to be meek. So this equestrian image, it helps. It helps understand what Jesus is saying by blessed are the meek, but not really. So we need a little bit more context. We need to look at the scriptures that Jesus read himself. When Jesus said, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, it's an echo of something from Psalm 37. But the meek shall inherit the land. It's like almost word for word. Like so close word for word that it's like not an accident. So if you want to know what Matthew 5:5 means, you kind of need to read more of Psalm 37. Yeah? So this is what it is. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I'm already 16 minutes in. Psalm 37. Do not fret because of the weak. Do not be envious of wrongdoers. Trust in the Lord and do good, so you will live in the land and enjoy security. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in him and in his way, and he will act. He will make your vindication shine like the light and the justice of your cause like the noonday. Oh, this is hard. Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret over those who prosper in their way, over those who carry out evil devices. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it only leads to evil. But the meek shall inherit the land, and delight themselves in abundant prosperity. So, that's the background, the key to understanding Matthew 5:5. The psalm urges us 3 times, do not fret. Don't worry, don't be anxious, don't be in a state of anxiety all the time. About what? About how short you are, Joey? No, it's not about that. The psalmist doesn't say don't fret about your everyday worries. He's saying don't fret about the wicked, about the wicked things that they do, and about how that wickedness hurts you. That's the context of Matthew 5. That's what Psalm 37 is saying. Jesus and the psalmist, they know that we fret, right? We fret about small things and we fret about big things. We fret about I had a play date with my kid yesterday, and the kids were fighting for this Batgirl toy, this car. It's just a toy. That kid has the toy that I want, and I want that kid, And I've grown up a little bit, but I actually still fight over toys. I'm a little bit bigger, and the toys are a little bit bigger and shinier, but we're still fretting about small things. But we also fret about other things, more serious stuff. I think one of the most serious and devastating frettings that we have are when people wound us. Yeah? Now that keeps me up at night. When people do something hurtful to me, it gets me angry. It bothers me, right? I can't sleep at night. I have to, Esther, this person did this thing to me. I can't believe they did this. They should have done that. I should have said this. We fret about the ways that people hurt us. Real or not real. It just could be just perceived. It couldn't even be real. But we still fret about it. And what does Psalm 37 say? Don't worry about it. Trust in the Lord. Don't worry about what evil people do or how you're hurt. Trust. He'll vindicate you. Who knows what I'm talking about here, right? Have you ever been slighted? Insulted? Used and abused? Been demeaned? Been mistreated? Some of us know what persecution is like. It's so easy, so natural to fret about the ways that we've been hurt, about the injustices we've experienced. So what does Psalm 33 say? Trust in the Lord. Do good. I mean, you received evil, don't matter. Keep doing good. Take delight in the Lord. Commit your way to the Lord. Be still. Instead of being riled up to action, be still and wait patiently for the Lord. This is the key verse in Psalm 37. I'd like to invite you to read it with me. Refrain from anger and forsake wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. In other words, don't retaliate. They hurt you, don't hurt them back. Leave justice to God. That's hard, isn't it? So hard. None of us likes to lie down and let people walk all over us. Right? We don't like to being stepped on and insulted. If you say something mean to me, I'll fire right back. Nah, you're worse. Literally, you're the worst. That's what I'll say. Right? But even besides these like everyday squabbles that we get into, there are real tragic cases where real injustices happen. Even that. Even when you are justified in being angry, Psalm 37, Matthew 5:5 says, let it go. Right? Somebody gets hurt physically, psychologically gets hurt. Maybe you take a financial loss. Maybe somebody hurts you by making you sink into debt, or you lose a loved one, or you find yourself disenfranchised. All of those are legit injustices. But even then, don't respond the way that the world would respond. Getting riled up, taking matters into your own hands, getting your pound of flesh, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, blood for blood, right? That's what the world would want you to do. Get even. Am I right? But here's what happens. If we respond to evil done to us with anger and wrath, that only leads to more evil. Evil returned is evil doubled. Think about the last time you got into an argument, a fight, somebody hurts you. It's only going to build if you keep returning it to each other. And then both of you are at a loss. Both of you have fallen. Both of you are hurt, right? We go from being victims to being perpetrators if we return evil for evil. So what's the way out of this cycle of death? Jesus is that model. Beatitudes is how he shows us. Jesus said this a few verses later in same chapter, Matthew 5:38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. And if anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go the second mile. That's tough. I don't know that I've ever lived this out in my life. Because it's hard. It goes against every fleshly flesh that I have. We want nothing more than to blow up at people who wrong us or who are wrong, right? It's not just us, it's not just our families, or even our own church community. We blow up at people who are in the wrong or who do us wrong. But Psalms and Jesus, they say that's not the way. They say refuse revenge. Refuse to act out of anger. Who in the world can do this? I mean, I'm telling you, me being in pastoral ministry for this long, I still struggle with this. But I want to. I mean, who wants to live in a cycle of death always? Right? I want to have life, abundant life. I want to be good at being a human being. And Jesus is saying this is the way. There's this Orthodox priest, his name is Michael Gillis, and he has this really great explanation for what meekness is. And I just want to read it to you. Meekness is this quiet calmness of accepting myself as I am and where I am. Inwardly, a meek person meek person can let go of pretending, can let go of the fear of being found out. Why? Because a meek person sees their poverty of spirit, and is no longer afraid of what others will see. A meek person outwardly will manifest this meekness by being gentle, being considerate of others. Having looked at my own shortcomings and mourned over them, it gets pretty difficult to get angry at other people's shortcomings. Right? In fact, if I suffer over my own sins, that helps me to realize that others are struggling too. In fact, oh man, this is tough. The person who strikes me on the cheek, if I realize that they're going through a struggle themselves, that gives me the strength to turn the other cheek. They're struggling too. I mean, they're hurting me, but they're hurting me over something painful. And if my heart can break for them, then I won't try to take revenge on it. I'd have compassion, even on the person who's hurting me. A meek person is humble. They're not worried about rank or position or titles. A meek person knows who they are. And they don't seek the affirmation or the praise of other people. A meek person knows their poverty, so they're secure in Jesus, right? Who cares what other people think? Who cares how tall that guy is? I'm just joking. But Jesus loves me as I am, short as I am. The meek person knows their own struggle. And lastly, the proud person thinks they already know. But the meek know that they don't know, and so they're teachable. I want to be meek. I want to be tamed that way. Now, in the Bible, there's at least two meek people. Moses, right? He's strong. You know, Moses was strong enough to even kill a person with his bare hands, a bully. He was strong enough to lead over 1 million people across an unforgiving desert for 40 years. I can't even take my 2-year-old to the zoo without freaking out. You know? How much inner strength do you have to lead that many people for that long? And there's no juice boxes. And yet the Bible describes Moses as being meek. Praus. Meek ain't weak. Tame ain't lame. I made that up, honestly. Just Google it. It's nowhere else on the internet. On top of that, Matthew describes Jesus as meek twice. And this is important. Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am praus, gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest in your souls." And the second place where Jesus is described as praus is right before he enters Jerusalem triumphantly. And he asks his disciples, "Go find a donkey for me to ride," right? And the narrator gives us this explanation that this is a fulfillment of Zechariah. In Zechariah 9:9, he says, "Behold, your king comes to you, righteous and able to keep alive. He is praus, humble, and mounted upon a mule, even a young foal of a donkey." Why is this important? Because when the Bible describes the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, he's not riding in as a mighty tyrant, as a warrior. Jesus comes in as a humble, gentle servant king. That's the kind of God we worship. Christ is meek, gentle, and humble, and that's the reason why we fall in love with Jesus. Not because he coerces us, not because he forces us, but because he loves us. Gently, compassionately, humbly, right? It's not an accident that Matthew uses this word twice, because Jesus is in contradistinction to another group of people, the Zealots. You ever heard of them before? The Zealots were a militant, anti-Roman, revolutionary faction, terrorists who were both equally religious and political at the same time. They were all for the Torah and for God as king, and so they would fight against their Roman oppressors. They viewed themselves as agents of divine judgment, right? God's salvation itself comes to us, the Zealots. And so they fought against idolatry and apostasy. Their slogan would have been, "Blessed are the violent, for they will conquer the world." Church, I want to say this. Zealots still live among us. In us. Many Christians believe that they're agents of God's judgment and salvation. We feel justified in fighting hard for what's right. So we dominate, we control, we try to influence other people. We try to take the world by force. We use violence to compel people to follow our way, the Christian way. We use fear and intimidation to get them to comply. But brothers and sisters, is that the God that we worship on the cross? I mean, if it were, Jesus wouldn't be on a cross, right? He'd be crucifying other people, right? But the God that we worship, he doesn't conquer the world through violence. He does it through peace, love, and forgiveness, and healing. So I don't think meekness and gentleness is some kind of like, oh, do it when you can, be meek when you can, right? Meekness, gentleness is the way of Christ. It's the quality that describes our King and the kingdom and the citizens of that kingdom. Meekness and gentleness. Imagine if you were arrested, put on an unfair trial, before a judge who hates you, who will treat you with extreme prejudice. His people oppresses your people, and he holds the power of life and death over you. Some of you in this room, some of you watching online, you don't have to imagine that too hard. How do you find the strength to stand before such a judge, to deal with this sort of injustice? Jesus did it. Jesus was on trial before this very kind of judge. Right? This is the craziest confrontation of power. Because on one hand, you think Pontius Pilate is the personification of power. Of all people, he would be the inheritor of the world, right? Because he's so powerful. He holds the power of life and death. He's noble. But where does Jesus, what does he have? Some obscure origin, some scandalous birth, comes from nowhere, has no military force, has no money, has no influence. And yet, this is why Christians think that this is why people call Christians lunatics. Because we say that Pilate is the one who's poor and powerless, and that Christ is the one who is going to inherit the earth. Isn't that crazy? It don't make no sense. Can you believe something so absurd? Because that's what the gospel is. Meekness is strength under control. When people mocked and spat on Jesus, he kept his peace. When Jesus was confronted by Pilate, he didn't cave in with cowardice. He didn't run away either. He didn't fight either. When his friends abandoned him, Jesus didn't reproach them. When Peter denied him, Jesus restored him. When Judas Iscariot betrayed him, Jesus still loved him. Even on the cross, Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." Jesus lived out Psalm 37. Jesus is the epitome of Matthew 5:5, the meek. Meek ain't weak, and tame ain't lame. It takes incredible strength to not fight back. FCC, can we do the same? Can we be meek like Christ? When people speak ill of us, when they hurt us, when they keep hurling things at us, hurling insults at us, can we keep loving them, forgiving them, seeking their well-being and their healing? I think at the end of the day, meekness is a blessing because it means it's being like Christ. And for me, that's the ultimate ideal of humanity, right? If you can be like Christ, you've made it. You're fulfilled as a human being. That's why it's a blessing to be meek. Let me say this. The meek are not weak. They're brave enough to trust God. I think this is the last thing that I want to tell you all. If a meek person is a strong person under the control of God, this is the opposite. A proud person is actually a weak person being controlled by anything else. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to be controlled by other things. Objects, people, status. We don't need to be controlled by that, right? Better to be under the control of a loving and gentle and compassionate Lord. Amen? So let me invite the worship team up here. Maybe there are no benefits to being a good person in this lifetime. But I think following Jesus, that will ultimately, one day, lead us to a well-being that this world won't understand. Friends, if you're like me and you feel like the Holy Spirit's tugging at your heart, convicting you of the ways that you've conformed to the world, of its pattern of dominance and control, I want to invite you today to wrestle with that. If you feel like Jesus' meekness, his gentleness, and his humility is something overwhelmingly attractive, I want you to sit in that. Open your heart, open your ears, listen to the voice of the Spirit. Don't leave this room without wrestling with it. Don't close this video until you've met with God. You can pray on your own. You can ask the person sitting next to you to pray with you. Or you can pray with a member of our prayer team. But I'm begging you, don't leave this room without having talked to Jesus. Just sitting for a moment, just to listen to his voice. Because at the end of the day, he says that if you're weary, if you're carrying heavy burdens, he'll give you rest. Take his yoke and learn from him, because he's praus, gentle, and humble in heart. And you'll find rest for your souls.